everybody. I'm Shannon with AMRA. We're down here at albie2 today. It's winter of 2013. We're mid-November and creek's still dry. You know, we've had a heck of a drought here for a couple of years. We're kind of waiting for some water, but we're going to shoot a video today, and it's a continuation of our video of thicket outside the creek. And I want to tell you a little bit of the history of this claim. This is albie2, and it's right outside of Groveland. And according to the U.S. Census, back in 1853, there was 57 Mexican miners living in here. They actually had a post office right down, or just up the creek here as well. And this was a pretty rich placer back in the day. They stayed in here for, I think it was 4 years, and they mined it pretty extensively. Because it was a dry claim, they kind of had a hard time working it. They threw an awful lot of the good stuff out of the creek up on the sides and then waited for the water to come. This is also an area called the Second Garrote, which is it's Spanish for death by strangulation. And apparently they caught some guy in here that was stealing gold from the miners, and so they hung him in a tree down the road here. And the tree is actually a historical site, and it's still there. But anyway, we're going to kind of show you some different spots on this claim, but it's a small claim. It's only 40 acres. We've got the entire creek bed here, and we're surrounded by private property. But we're going to go ahead and pan through some of this section here, and you'll see that on this side of the claim, more on the north side, you'll see mounding in here, and quite a bit of mounding, and you'll see ditches dug. For some reason, back in the day in the 1850s, they worked the creek bed, obviously, but they worked this east side or the north side of the creek, but they never touched the south side. So the south side is the same level as this side. We were looking across behind the camera here, and you can see the flat goes clear up to where the hillside starts going up. There's no mounding, there's no evidence of mining on this side, and we don't know why that is. So today, the video that we're going to shoot is to kind of give you a lay of the land, to think outside the creek, which this has been mined many times over, and we've got quite a few guys here and a whole lot of shovels. So we're going to go do a pretty epic hole punch up here, punch it all the way down to bedrock, and then we'll sample that material. And we're hoping that we find some old ground, some undisturbed virgin ground that the old timers missed. Once we get up in the trees where we're going to do this, I want to show you guys that there's some trees in there that are definitely older than 1850, and that's a really good indicator that that obviously they didn't work it. You can see like this big ponderosa here behind me, and some of these things. We've actually got a tree expert here from the Park Service, and he's estimating that these trees are about 120 to 140 years old. So when they mined this in the 1850s, they would have stripped this. All these trees would have been gone. So this big boy right here is probably a growth that happened after they mined this, shortly thereafter. So if we find trees bigger than this, that's a good indicator that we've got virgin ground. So anyway, we're gonna poke around a bit, and we're gonna take you over and show you some of this mounding so you can know what to look for when you see that evidence of the old timers. And then we'll take you up here and we'll show you what we're looking at of why we've chosen that spot. Then we'll do our hole punch, we'll test it, and we'll see what we get. So we'll pick you up in just a sec. So here we are, we're just upstream from where we just were. And we're on the north side of the creek, which is the area that we told you guys that they worked pretty extensively. But we want to point out a couple of things to look for. And right back behind me here, I don't know if you can see this little ditch here, I'm sure you can. This is an area that they diverted the water. So we'll pan over here, and I want to show you this. See all of this mounding back behind me here? This is where they would take all this material out of the creek bed and they would throw it up here. So you've got mounds in here. Some of these things are 10 or 12 feet tall. This little ditch here, you know, who knows? We know that they built little holding ponds in here so they could run their material. But I don't know. Was this material that they pulled out back in the 1850s and threw up here, and they buried virgin ground underneath it? I don't know. To punch a hole obviously here would be pretty extensive. But you got to understand, guys, back in the day, a lot of these miners, and Perlow talks about this a lot in his book, is that when they would get to these dry creeks that they couldn't work, they would dig up all of that material during the summertime and they would throw it up on the bank. And we've all seen big mounds of material running down the side of a creek, but they would throw that up on those banks waiting for the water to come during the winter. So there are spots up here that mounded dirt that's alongside of the river is material that they pulled out. It would have been the best of the best. And we do know that they averaged between 2 and 3 ounces per day per man up here with a shovel and a pan. So anyway, this was a pretty rich placer. But we wanted to show you this mounding, and we're going to kind of go around here. We'll probably pop over to the other side of the creek, and we'll show you how flat that is, where there is no mounding. And it's indicative that they probably didn't work it. At least that's what we're hoping. So let's head over there and we'll take a look. So here we are. We were just filming right there. That's where those mounds are. Here's the creek bed. And maybe we could get the camera to kind of pan around here, and you can see how these banks are getting all cut up here. This is river cobble, but I can tell you this, guys, is that back in 1853 through 57, they worked all of this stuff. But we're going to kind of pan up over here, and we got a bunch of AMRA members here today that are going to kind of help us. But I want you to look at this meadow up in here. Now this is the south side of the creek. See how flat this is in here? And this goes through all of these trees. Now we do know that there's some trees in here that are probably close to 200 years old, so that's the area that we're going to focus on. We can see that there's mounding here, and you can see that there's all kinds of rock. This is the stuff that they threw out back in 1853. Did they cover this virgin ground right here? I don't know, but I'll tell you, if I was a miner, I'd probably dig a hole right here, punch that down, and see if they just threw the good stuff out and covered up this stuff right where the creek used to be. So anyway, we'll head down to the trees and we'll show you what we got there. We're going to go off topic here just a second. We're walking up the creek bed looking for a little bench to dig in. And you know, I've mentioned this in all of our other videos, is that everybody should carry a loop. You can get these for 10 bucks. You know, get like a 30 magnifier and just keep it in your pocket. And we came up here, and this rock I saw here on the edge, and we'll see if we can't get a good tight shot of this here. See how this is all quartz up here, and there's a real nice wall here. This goes into a lot darker material, and what we always tell everybody is break these rocks open and look along this wall. Well, I took this giant boulder and I broke it, and here's the pieces that are going back into my truck, by the way. And this rock's full of gold. We can't get a tight enough shot with the camera, but I'll tell you what we will do is we'll take this rock and we'll run this through our impact mill, and we'll show the cleanup that we get just from this one rock, and I think it'll probably impress everybody. But oh, you can see that piece of gold right there. Well, you probably can't see it from there, but it's just sticking right out of the rock. Break these rocks open and look for those walls. So anyway, that was just a side break. We'll keep looking for our bench here. We'll carry this back to the truck.
Bedrock. Bedrock, maybe like you're saying 7, 8, or 5 feet, 6 feet.
I say 7. I'll bet you a root beer at 7.
I think you'll hit cobble about 4 feet.
Yeah, you'll hit cobble at about 4.
Maybe
Well,
5.
and I would think that if it's old ground, that you're going to see all through that cobble, even at the top layer of cobble, you're going to find gold.
Oh yeah, right.
And where it hits bedrock, I think you're going to find big gold. So
That's one of the benches we work is like that. It's 3 feet down, and where the cobble starts, gold's all through the layer.
it just gets bigger as you go down, bigger rocks and etc. And we've got some pretty good sized boulders in here. Nothing winchable, but I think that, you know, stuff that maybe take 2 guys to move. But I like this. So anyway, everybody that's watching this is kind of the discussions and stuff. I don't want you guys to all think that, you know, hey, Shannon just picks a spot to dig. That's not really the case. I rely on a lot of friends, basically, and these guys are also members, that have a lot of mining experience, because 2 heads are better than 1, 4 heads are better than 2, so I like getting all of that input, and even off camera when we're doing all this, we're talking to everybody and what their opinions are. So this may be where we dig today. I don't know yet. We're gonna go back down. I ribboned some areas off about a year ago. We'll go check that out and see if these guys like that, and we'll pick you up down there. So let's head down here, guys. We just come across this side of the road. We're heading back towards the creek, and this is an area that I flagged about a year ago, and I'll show you why. There's some trenching that they've done here where you can see that they've gone up, and they actually, before this road was here, they crossed the road and they dug this big gully all the way up the side of the hill here. But you want to talk about old trees? Look at this thing. How old do you think that is? I'm guessing 200 years, and in just a second we'll pan up this. It looks like this old girl probably got hit by lightning, you know, maybe 100 and some years ago. And anyway, we know that this tree is older than when they mined in here in 1853. So if you find an area like this, and we're not very high above the creek, we're maybe 15 feet above the creek, maybe 20 at the most, we know that they didn't mine this spot. They mined right below here, maybe 50 feet, but they didn't mine up here. So if a guy had a lot of energy, this would be an area that you'd want to hole punch. But take a look at this tree. It's really something. Well, here we are, guys. We just had some lunch, and we've walked the whole claim, and we've looked at several good places that we've identified that we think would be pretty good. But we're back to that original spot that we shot at earlier this morning, and we've started to actually punch now. And anyway, we're going to show you what we're doing. We got about 6 guys here, 7 of us, I guess, and all we're trying to do is just punch a decent-sized hole and see if we can't get down to the bedrock. We're pretty sure that this whole flat here behind this truck has not been mined. We've got some really, really ancient fruit trees back in the distance here that is indicative of that mining camp probably when they were here. So anyway, let's walk over here. We'll show you what we got going. So you can see we started to dig this hole, and I'm guessing that it's going to be a good probably 7 or 8 feet down to bedrock. And if that's the case, oh, go ahead and keep going, guys. If that's the case, let's say that you're going to dig down 7 foot, you really almost need to triple that in size, at least double the size of the hole that you start. So I know you guys are looking at this going, oh, it's not big enough. You're right, it isn't big enough at the top. We'll punch down. If we start to pinch out, we'll dig the hole deeper. But we're seeing a little bit of evidence of some river cobble in here, but not very much. Most of it's still red dirt. We just hit a clay layer, and we're going to keep punching down. So we'll show you here in a little bit. I wanted to see your hands reaching in there picking stuff out.
But there's a color.
There is?
There's a color.
There is. Yep.
A fleck.
Is it small?
Yeah.
That's right on the surface.
Yeah, that's as soon as you hit that gravel there, huh?
Well, we'll give you the update here. We're pretty much finished here. We'll show you what we did. We did figure out it was about 6 feet down to bedrock. We punched down. We had a couple of little gravel layers, little tiny stuff though, in this hole, and we panned it out. We actually got gold in every one of them, in every one of those layers, but it was really small fine gold and it wasn't very much. So it really doesn't justify excavating this. But I want to give you a perspective here. We had 7 guys here, big strong people that were digging, and it took us about 2.5 hours. And take a look at what we got going here. If you can take a look at the size of the hole. So here's the bottom line, guys, is that we did this test punch here, which didn't pan out for us, but this is the only way really to find that old ground. You know, a lot of people go out and they find a little tiny bit of gold. What we're trying to do is to show you how to find an enormous quantity of gold, a lot of gold, like an ounce or, you know, something of that nature. And the only way really to do that without getting super lucky is to punch holes like this, thinking outside of the creek of the areas that the old timers either didn't work or they missed. We got down, what, Don, probably about 5 feet and found an old medicine bottle that had been broken. We found quite a few square nails, so at least 4 feet down of this slough, that dates to 1850, so that's quite a bit, and that only leaves about maybe 2.5 feet before you get onto bedrock. So it just shows how much material is deposited in this area. But the one thing I want you to think about is those mounds, and this is something all of us now wish we would have went over here and dug one of those mounds that was thrown out of the creek, because it could have been material that they threw out that they were going to work later, or it could have been that they just threw it out of the creek and they covered up old ground. But anyway, so that gets you to think outside the creek. I wish we could show you a pan full of gold, but it's not going to happen this go around. But remember about something about AMRA, guys, is we've got a lawsuit coming up here, and it's where the federal government came in and they actually took a D9 dozer and they dozed over one of our claims. It's somebody that we know personally. That's a good friend of AMRA. They own the claim, and it's just absolutely atrocious what the government did. You know, it's like, we'll give you an analogy. It would be like the government coming into your backyard and taking a D9 dozer and dozing over your gazebo. You know, they just don't have the right to do that. So we could sure use your support. We're going to need some funds, obviously, for legal fees, and we want to make this government accountable, so the Forest Service. So anyway, check us out on AmericanMiningRights.com, and don't forget, if you come out to our claims, leave them cleaner when you leave than when you got there. I'm Shannon Poe with AMRA. We'll see you next time.